Greetings. Anthropogenic greenhouse gas emissions have drastically increased since the pre-industrial era, driven largely by economic and population growth. It is our duty as emitters of these immense sources of greenhouse gases to resolve this current significant issue. As one of Africa's poorest and most vulnerable countries, Ethiopia is severely experiencing the effects of climate change. Besides the direct effects such as an increase in temperature or a change in rainfall patterns, climate change also presents the necessity and opportunity to switch to a new, sustainable development model. Our government strategy comprises actions to reduce greenhouse gas emissions while safeguarding economic growth and reducing vulnerability to the effects of climate change. Some emission reduction initiatives include more efficient cooking stoves, expanding electricity generation from renewable sources, and improving crop and livestock production practices in order to increase yields. This will contribute towards a sustainable path that is resilient to climate change, and thus allow us to have zero net national carbon emissions by the year 2100.
Ethiopia is one of the few climate action tracker ratings considered sufficient. The sufficient rating indicates that Ethiopia are at the most ambitious end of its fair contribution. This means that we are consistent with limiting warming to below 2 degrees, without requiring other countries to make much deeper reductions. The mitigation effort will focus primarily on the forestry sector, which is expected to contribute with a reduction of 130 metric tonnes of CO2. The forestry sector, however, has not been included in this because it's hard to analyse. These are some current ongoing programmes that we have in place to combat climate change. The main effort in the near term is to build the capacity needed to mainstream adaptations into all public and private initiatives. These efforts will build on existing good practices in order to scale up and mainstream these interventions. We have set targets to slash carbon emissions by 64% within the next 15 years, and are aiming to achieve carbon neutral middle income status before 2025, and hence build a resilient green economy.
Right, this is the Humbo regeneration project which started in 2005. It's Ethiopia's first carbon trading initiative. It is implemented by the World Vision Ethiopia and is funded by the World Bank Biocarbon Fund. This project allows for the restoration of approximately 2,700 hectares of degraded land, which is gradually restored by afforestation. The project is sustainably managed by surrounding rural communities. According to the World Bank, the Humbo project is expected to sequester over 880,000 CO2 tonnes over the next 30 years. It's the first of its kind in Ethiopia, using farm-managed natural regeneration techniques to restore the degraded natural forests and generate carbon credits. Since first being implemented, the project has gone through some significant achievements. For example, in 2009 it was validated as an afforestation/restoration project under the Clean Development Mechanism. In 2011 it achieved the first edition gold level validation under climate, community and biodiversity standards, and finally in 2012 it became the first project in Africa to sell temporary certified emission reductions.
So, it is clear that Ethiopia is already making significant progress towards achieving zero net national carbon emissions by the year 2100. Humanity faces many threats, but none are greater than climate change. We are dependent on the more developed industrialist countries to meet these targets, as we will be the ones most affected by these actions due to our geographic place and relatively poor economy. As Finland's President Sauli Niinisto once said, small steps will no longer do. The biggest steps need to be taken by those with the biggest boots. Thank you.